Welcome everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you for joining me. This is question and answer session number 2. This will be more first favorites, flashbacks, all those sort of things, all course questions coming from you guys. I've got 26 different questions to run through here that relate to music specifically, my channel itself, and then some personal stuff we'll wrap up with at the end. And of course, just to catch people up that are new to my channel, maybe haven't seen the first question and answer, and I will put a link to it in the description below. But I am an architect, hence the reason I wear these shirts when I do what I consider a channel-related video. But of course, I'm a music lover 24/7, and I have over 9,000 CDs. Having just hit the 3,000 mark of subscribers, I'm sort of doing this video as a thank you to everyone. And again, I am very grateful and thankful for all the support that I have had so far. And before we go any further, if you are new to my channel though, and this is the first time you're seeing a video from me, please hit the subscribe button. Also comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. I would greatly appreciate it. And I'll say this, I want to have some fun here. So you guys have some snacks? I recommend let's get some snacks. Let's enjoy this. Have some snacks, some fun. Listen to me answering your questions. And as always, I'm going to do my best to pronounce all the names right. And if I get any of them wrong, I'm very sorry. I am doing my best with it. All right, so the first question, we're going to kick off with music related. And the first question comes from Bill Voigt. And he wants to know, what was my first concert? So interestingly, AC/DC with King's X opening. This was in 1991 on the Razor's Edge tour. And the following night was Poison with Slaughter opening. And so I actually consider both of these my first. And the real reason why is, and I know my mom is watching this, and I don't know if she knows the end, what I'm going to say here is, actually, my first concert is AC/DC with King's X. I slept over at a friend's house and their parents took us. But my mom and dad the next night took me and my friend to go see Poison and Slaughter, and they thought that was my first concert. So sorry, Mom. Apologize if you didn't know that already. But those were the first 2 shows I saw, and loved, all 4 of those bands a lot. Okay, Kevin Settle. He's asking, who would you like to see live? Considering like if they broke up. And so I've actually seen a lot of different bands. I've seen over 180 different bands and artists, and most of those bands I've seen multiple times. I've also seen original lineups by groups like Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots, Soundgarden, Nirvana, Pantera, the Ramones, Rush, Van Halen, Cinderella, Dio, just to name a few. So I saw a lot of these artists back in the day. I might have mentioned it, I believe, in the first Q&A. I worked for 5 different record stores through high school and into college and stuff like that. So when working in the record stores, you used to get a lot of free tickets from the music reps to go promote and see these artists and that sort of stuff. So I was seeing up to 3 different bands or concerts a week at that time. Now, trying to answer this question though, who would I like to see that's broken up? Pink Floyd, the original lineup, including Roger Waters. I have seen Floyd in 1994. Of course, we'd just see those 3 guys again, or 2. I'd see David Gilmour for that matter. But also the Doors, the original lineup, because I did see the Doors with Ian Astbury from The Cult fronting them. But an artist that I've never seen that is still around that I would like to see before they hang it all up is the Rolling Stones. I just have not been able to get tickets. It sells out so quick and it costs an arm and a leg for those guys. Next question comes from Fez Monkey. What is your favorite all-time band? Pink Floyd. And if you could see one band right now live, who would it be? It would still be Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd's going to figure in a lot to these questions if you haven't already realized that. Annie is a Punk asks, what do you listen to most? So I've got 3 albums. I couldn't really narrow it down to just one album, but Pink Floyd Division Bell, I think I listen to quite a lot. It fits a lot of different moods. GNR's Appetite for Destruction, that was 1987, and Division Bell was 94. AC/DC Fly on the Wall happens to be my favorite album by them. So these are go-to albums that I like every track, start to finish, just depending on mood. I'll throw those on if I have nothing else to listen to while I'm trying to figure out what that next thing is that I would go to. Carrie David Sadler asks, what album do you own that people would be surprised that you own? So I own some Tony Bennett. He's jazz, big band sort of stuff. Johnny Cash, which is country. Tupac, which is rap. And of course Adele, which is pop. And then Adam asks, do you listen to any mainstream artists of today? So of course Adele falls into that. Adam Lambert, Death Cab for Cutie, The National. And just so you guys don't think I'm like, saying these names and I don't really have this stuff, I'll comment on it later, but I only talk about bands and artists that I actually own catalog items from, albums from, and listen to. So I don't just stream anything. If I do, I don't really consider myself a fan or following that artist. Next question, Brody Atwood asks, what is your favorite AC/DC song? So my favorite song is actually Money Talks off the Razor's Edge from 1990. Lots of melody in that song, but of course, as I mentioned before, my favorite album is actually Fly on the Wall. Not necessarily one particular track off here, although I really like the song Fly on the Wall, and I really like the second track, Shake the Foundations, or Your Foundations, but favorite track, Money Talks. Jacob Jackson asks, what is your favorite Danger Danger song? So Monkey Business off of their second album, Screw It, which is 1991. Really like this one. It's just one of those big, bombastic, over-the-top, glam, metal, hairband, whatever you want to call it, sounding songs. I could put that on and it would just get me going every time. Another song like that is Warrant's Thin Disguise. It was a B-side from their second album, but does appear on their greatest hits if you want to check that out. I absolutely love that song. I could listen to it all the time. Okay, next up is from a subscriber called Greatest Music Fan. What is your favorite song by Cinderella? And so that would be Nothing for Nothing off of Night Songs, which came out in 1986. That song just has such a great groove to it. That one there, just anytime that comes on, I just, you want to chug, you want to drive, you want to do something. It's just really good. Okay, next one, Gerten de Hertog. And again, I apologize if I'm pronouncing these names incorrectly. What do you think is Queen's best album, and what album do you listen to the most? And I really consider that one and the same, because if I consider the album the best, I'm probably going to listen to it the most. That one would be Queen's The Game. And I don't happen to have it handy, otherwise I would have gotten out and shown it to you guys. It's just packed away in one of those mini boxes out there kind of thing. So it's the first album that I heard by them. One of my older brothers had it. It's holds a lot of great memories in that regard, but so many great different styles are on that album. And in particular, my two favorite songs on there, Rocket and Sail Away Sweet Sister. And then next question, Andreas from Greece and Bill Voigt also asks, what are your favorite soundtracks? And Bill Voigt also asks a second question, what is my favorite movie? And I'm going to answer that one first. My favorite movie is actually Midnight Run with Robert De Niro, and I believe his name is James Grodin, two actors that are in it. The soundtrack is actually one of those ones from the 80s that, while orchestrated, has a lot of guitar in it. So I do appreciate that. I probably would actually own the soundtrack if I could get a hold of it, but I can't. But it's one of those good buddy movies, and they're on the run, kind of like a planes, trains, and automobiles type movie. I don't know why, but that one I could put on and watch at any point in the movie all the way through. It's just a really good movie, feeling kind of movie in my opinion. But back to the question, what are my favorite soundtracks? Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey from 1991. It's got artists like Winger and Slaughter. So I prefer soundtracks that have rock bands and have all of one type of music on it. I really don't like the soundtracks that have a lot of different genres or things like that, or mix the scores in with them and stuff. So another one that I really like is Armageddon from 1998, and I think that was the last great rock soundtrack that came out in my opinion. Other than ones that gather up collections of older artists, but ones that had new material. Armageddon, of course, it had Aerosmith, and I really like the John Bon Jovi song that's on there. And the question is also, so how many soundtracks do I own? I think I own around 30 plus. I don't own a lot. Two most recent ones I bought, though, are these, the Rocky IV soundtrack and the Pretty in Pink. So a lot of new wave artists on here and a lot of just good 80s rock on this one. Next question comes from Hartmut Peter. And it's who is the best male and female musician ever? And I'm just going to answer that as the best musician, period. In this particular case, David Gilmour. I already mentioned that I like Pink Floyd. They're my favorite band, how much I listen to these guys. I think him as an artist, musician, guitar player, what he has created and the sounds that come out of his guitar, and more beyond just talking about Floyd, but if you've watched any of the bonus materials from the last few DVDs, Blu-rays that have come in his deluxe edition albums, whether it be the live or studio ones, he's had these jam sessions on there that he does, and they're just amazing. And I really hope one day they just collect all of those up and release them. It really, to me, shows what an outstanding guitarist he is. Another question from him also is, have I ever seen a bad concert? And no, I've never actually seen a bad concert where the musicians are bad, but I have had a couple bad experiences. In particular, I went to see Tom Petty on his final tour, 40th anniversary, and there was a drunk guy in front of me that at the beginning of every single song would yell out, "Yeah!" and hold his beer up and continue to do that, and it was just kind of annoying being in front of me. I went to Guns N' Roses and twice on their most recent reunion tour, and I swear the concert was so loud it hurt my ears. And I don't think that's something that is new. I think they were really just overly too loud, and it made it unenjoyable. I eventually found a security guard who gave me earplugs that made it bearable, and I stayed through the rest. But after about 3 songs, I really considered leaving. This goes back, I've seen them in 1991 on the Use Your Illusion tour when they were promoting themselves as the loudest band on tour. I think they were trying that again there. And then Slayer on their farewell tour, I had a guy sit behind me that just talked the whole time through the show, and it wasn't even his seat that he was supposed to be in, and eventually security had to come and throw him out when the guy that really was supposed to sit there came, kind of a thing. So just, bad drunk people not acting right and not listening to the music and doing other things instead of listening to the music, I really don't get. I've had experiences where people talk through the whole thing, drink and talk, and that's it. And they're not really there for the music, they're there for the experience, to be able to say they saw that artist. And I don't really get that. All right, moving on. Next question. David Grazoulis, again, and I'm apologizing if I'm saying it wrong. Do you prefer Van Halen with Roth or Hagar? I actually love both, but I'd go with Hagar. That's who I grew up with, and that's actually who I saw in 1995, live meaning. But the first album by Van Halen that I actually bought was 1984, and I really love the Diver Down album. So for me, it goes either way. I can enjoy either one, but if I have to pick, it's going to be Hagar. Paul Samuel and Charlie 10 both ask, what is the most valuable album you own? I think that the term value is kind of subjective. I do own a lot of albums and CDs that go for hundreds and hundreds of dollars on eBay. I've seen some of these things selling for 900 plus. So I own what might be considered valuable in that regard, but for me the value comes from the albums of music that has never been released. I'm going to give you 2 examples of those that I have in my collection. So I own a Misfits album called 12 Hits from Hell that was due to come out in 2001, but Glenn Danzig actually went to court and stopped its release. It is a full-on, fully done album that was sent out. About 2,000 copies, I believe, were sent out to be music reviewed for magazines and stuff like that. I found them on eBay. They were going for hundreds of dollars at the time. And incidentally, someone, I got one, I might have paid 30, 40. I don't think I paid very much for it. I'm not sure how it went for so low, but there was a number of them selling at the time, and I managed to get a hold of it. And then incidentally, the person put 2 copies in there, and I turned around and sold mine for 75 bucks. So I made back the money that I spent getting it in the first place. Another one I have, a little hard to see here, Duff McKagan, Beautiful Disease. This is a promo from Geffen Records for an album that was due for release in 1999 that got shelved and never happened, has never been released. Most of the material was re-recorded later on different albums by his band Loaded. So you can look this album up. Both of these are actually called out in Wikipedia and stuff like that. They are official albums, just never released. Next, we have Steve Hurley says, with 9,000 CDs, do you ever worry that unless you listen 24/7, that there are albums in your collection that you will never listen to again? For me, it's about the collection and having it available when I want it. Albums go out of print so fast that I want these in my collection before that happens. My video series, What's That You're Listening To? The episodes on that are a good example of this. I'm able to go into my collection and I'm always able to pull something that fits a listening desire. And for me, that's more about having it in the collection and the availability and access to it than worrying about whether I listen to it enough or whatever. Someone asked me a question recently today that I answered where I mentioned that I actually had an album that I don't think I had listened to in about 20 years that I just pulled out recently. For some reason, I did not like it at the time, and I put it on and it fit perfectly with what I was listening to. So I don't get rid of anything. I hang on to it all because at some point I will be into it. All right, we're moving on to channel related. Mark Durain asks, how much time do you spend preparing your videos and do you rehearse them? So generally I put somewhere between 2 to 3 hours into a video. Some take more time. It just depends on how in-depth I'm getting in the background info that I want to talk to you about. Music News Roundup, of course, takes more time because I'm spending time every day reading the news sites, collecting that, writing that down for you guys. And tribute videos often take more time too because I'm researching someone's life and trying to put a full picture together for that artist. Most videos I rehearse at least once. Some of the videos I do off the cuff. Like What's That You're Listening To and New Music Finds. Both of those are generally done off the cuff. Just no rehearsal, just let's talk about stuff like that. So, and I've recently started doing some reviews that way as well for artists that I just know really well inside and out. So it just kind of depends on the topic. Will Seung. Last name starts with an H, and I don't know if it's silent or not. I'm pronouncing it silent here. What topics would you refuse to discuss on your channel? So personally, no topics are off limits, but I only talk about things that I know or things that I see. So as an example, the Grammys. I got asked a lot about the whole Grammy situation, the Eddie Van Halen thing. I didn't watch it, so I'm not going to discuss it. But things like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I have talked about. I most recently was talking about trying to get Iron Maiden in there, voting for them. Current topics like the Capitol insurrection, and dealing with Iced Earth guitarist John Schaefer and the controversy surrounding Marilyn Manson. I've done topics on both of those. And regarding music specifically, though, and I did mention this a little earlier, I only talk about bands that I listen to and own their catalog. So I have been asked to review or talk about other artists, but if I don't follow them, I don't listen to them, and I don't own them, I'm not going to speak about them. Just for me, it's a credibility issue. I am a fan. And this channel focuses on the things that I am a fan of, more so than trying to be a broad music channel in that regard. I'll leave that to the news channels and the other ones. This one here is going to stick to the stuff that I am a fan of. That's just how I'm going to do it. Hope you guys appreciate that. Talking personal questions now, I've got some. Ricardo Rivero asked, what brought you to New York, and would I ever return to Florida? So grad school actually brought me to New York. As I mentioned, I'm an architect. I came here to go to Columbia. I spent 3 years there, and when I was done, I chose to stay in New York. I just enjoyed it so much at the time. And I don't think I'd ever go back to Florida. I think if I'm going to move or leave from New York, I'm going to try somewhere else. Darlene Goodwin asks, how many tattoos do I have? So I kind of talked a little bit about this last time. I've got 2 full sleeves. I've got 4 tattoos on my legs. I've got 2 that run across my shoulders, and I've got 1 on my back. Individually, I don't really know. I've never tried to count them all up because I didn't get any of the sleeves and things done all at one time. They are a composition or a collection of things over time. Next one comes from Beat Up Record Collector. As an architect, do you design residential or commercial buildings? I actually do both. Residential, things like houses, apartments, hotel work. And then commercially, I've done things like beauty salons and restaurants. And I also do religious work like churches and chapels, cathedrals, etc. So a lot of different stuff. My firm is a very broad firm. It does all different styles, and that's just fraction of the stuff I've touched on. Adam asks how tall I am. I'm 6'2". And then Q David Q and Mr. Sturgeon General. I particularly like that last username there. Do you play any instruments? I do. I play guitar and bass. I used to play in several bands back when I was in college. Nothing professional, just for fun. I have recorded my own demos, and again, just for fun. Had a 4-track player back in the day that digitized all that stuff and had a lot of fun with it. All right, and the final question here goes to Graham Allen, who asks, what is your favorite time of day to listen to music? Morning time, very early when it's still dark out, when New York City is still very quiet. That is my favorite time. People are sleeping. I live in an apartment, so when things are quiet from the neighbors. And what is the longest that I've gone without listening to music? And honestly, I listen every day, all the time. Talked a little bit about this before in I think the first video. I wake up, I actually spend the first 2 hours of my morning listening to music before I get ready. I listen during commute. I listen while I'm at work. Back home on the commute, I have it on in the background when I'm home at night, and I sleep with it on. So all the time, but if I'm really super busy, I might have gone 12 hours without listening to something, but I really do have it on all the time. I like to drown out the noise of New York City with music. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed this question and answer session. Leave your comments, your thoughts below. And again, if this does really well, next milestone that I hit, I will do another Q&A for you guys. So feel free to go ahead and start leaving your questions as you did before. I collect them up, keep them in my computer here, and I will save them for question and answer number 3, hopefully coming to you soon. All right, take care, everyone. Have a good day, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.